When her mom passed away, life got really hard for the young girl, but even when she was hungry, tired and cold, she still took care of her little brother. One day, she collapsed from exhaustion. Our next post is from a Reddit user. I grew up in a very poor household with my parents and 3 siblings. We were dirt poor due to a lack of medical care. My sister wasn't properly vaccinated and contracted a virus that made her mentally handicapped. I love my sister, and even though she needed full-time care, I never thought it was a burden. I don't know if it was because I was the oldest or what, but I just felt responsible for her. She told me that she had received a call from her sister who lived abroad. All my life I had been waiting for this moment, so when it finally happened, I was in a state of shock. She hugged me and said, "We're going to be fine, it's only temporary, and besides, you won't have to take care of your sister anymore." She thought that this would cheer me up, but it made me feel worse. I hadn't changed it soon enough and it was full of poop. As I was cleaning her, she began screaming, "Don't touch me, dirty girl, don't touch me." She said it in a very creepy voice. It sounded like nails on a chalkboard. They asked me where my sister and I had been living, what I fed her and how I treated her. I got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. I was hooked up to Anne for drip and there were machines beeping around me. Then I saw a doctor standing next to my bed. She told me that my mom was in a psychiatric hospital and that my aunt wasn't allowed to keep me anymore because I was considered a delinquent. She said that I would have to live in a foster home until I turned 18. I didn't care. At that point I just wanted to die. He told me that I had severe anemia and that I was severely malnourished. I was so weak that my body shut down. Apparently I had fainted right there in my room. I looked in the mirror and noticed that I had pale skin and dark eye circles. I looked like death. I was so exhausted that I fell to the floor. My aunt told me that I wasn't allowed to take care of my mom. She hired a nurse to do that. After hearing this, I became depressed. We didn't talk much. We were all too broken. When I turned 18, I aged out of the foster care system. I had no one. No one wanted me. I remember thinking that this was the end of the world. I didn't want to live anymore. What was the point? I hated myself. I felt like a failure. Today I'm married and have a son of my own. I still miss my sister sometimes and wonder what would have happened if I hadn't neglected her. I wish things had been different. I don't remember anything after that. But yeah, that was our story. And if you like it, we also have a podcast. So check it out. I told them the truth and they let me go. I felt guilty for not taking better care of her. I mean, I was supposed to be her big sister and I failed her. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing and turning in bed. I felt extremely tired, so I decided to take a nap. I stopped immediately and looked at her. She was staring at me with her black eyes. I think that day I really understood how heavy my responsibility was. Taking care of my sister was my responsibility and no one else's. When I came back to bed, I noticed that my sister wasn't there. I just hoped that she hadn't wandered out onto the streets and gotten lost. Then the worst happened. My mom found my sister sitting in the bathtub filled with water. I immediately went to her and picked her up. She was ice cold and her body was stiff. I don't remember much after that. My mom screamed and cried. The police showed up again and took my mom away to the hospital. Apparently she had a complete mental breakdown. I looked everywhere for her, but she had vanished. I went downstairs to check if she was outside, but she wasn't there either. I panicked and called my mom. She rushed to my room and we started searching the whole house. She called the police and told them that I had kidnapped my own sister. They searched everywhere, but she was nowhere to be found. It took a few days for me to process it. I was going to leave my home, the only home I had ever known. It felt like a part of me was being ripped off. I protested, but she insisted. I didn't want to disappoint my mom, so I just agreed. I tried my best to take care of my sister, but I wasn't used to being pampered. I guess you could say that I was spoiled rotten. I spent my days shopping and hanging out with boys and I would often forget to change my sister's diaper. When I remembered, it would already be too late and she would have an accident. She asked us if we wanted to move in with her and my mom said yes. I was so happy to hear this because maybe finally we would get a decent place to live in and some stability. We had a room each and the furniture was modern and pretty. There were even chandeliers on the walls. And since we weren't poor anymore, I was given an allowance that I could spend however I wanted. I was excited, but at the same time, I missed my home and my old room. I told my mom that I would go live with Aunt Mary too, but she insisted that we should stay together as a family. I didn't want to argue, so I just dropped it. I would change her diapers, feed her and bathe her and do everything else that my mom couldn't. I started doing this when I was about 13 years old. My father left my mother when I was 12 years old because she couldn't have any more children due to health complications. To make ends meet, my mother did odd jobs here and there around town. Meanwhile, my youngest brother would always play outside. He didn't really help out much, but he never caused any trouble either. It was huge and it had 4 burners instead of 2. This made my mom happy because she stopped having to go to her friend E's house to wash our clothes and use their stove to cook. She also stopped having to go to the soup kitchen to get food. My salary was barely enough to cover the necessities, but I was happy to be helping her. At age 14, I told my mother that I wanted to quit school because why waste a good education on someone like me who would probably end up working at McDonald's anyway. I knew that if I could get a job, I could help my mother out by paying the bills and buying food. She agreed and pulled me out of school. My dad ended up marrying one of his co-workers who had money and they lived like royalty while we were stuck in a rundown shack. I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister who is mentally disabled. On top of taking care of my sister, I also did all the housework. I would clean, cook, wash the clothes, etc. I got a job at a gas station and I managed to save up enough money to buy us a new fridge, washing machine and dryer. One evening after work, I was fixing dinner for my family and my mom came into the kitchen crying. A few weeks later, my mom announced that we would be moving in with her sister. The day before we moved, I told my mom that I didn't want to go. When we arrived at Aunt Mary's house, I noticed that it wasn't as big as I had imagined. It was nice though. On the second day, my mom told me that I would have to take care of her sister. I remember vividly one incident when I was changing her diaper. 3 months passed and one night I woke up in the middle of the night to use the toilet. I felt terrible and kept blaming myself for what had happened. That day, the police came back to question me, but when I woke up, I noticed that my whole body ached and I felt very weak. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. After I recovered, I went back home. One day I heard a knock on the door and when I opened it, there was a social worker standing in front of me. In the foster home, I met other kids who had run away from home, kids who were abused, beaten and neglected. So I decided to join the army. I served for 8 years and when I came back, I learned a trade. OP, I didn't have the heart to tell her that her sister died because she wouldn't stop asking for her.